we'll give everybody about a minute to come in and join the stream here. Going to be talking about the heat pump system at the Ample Storage building, where we replaced an evaporator coil that was leaking and found additional leaks. All right, we'll go ahead and get started. This video is a follow-up to the live broadcasts that I've done on the Ample Storage building with the leaking evaporator coil that was replaced, and during the process of trying to get the evaporator coil replaced and the system leak tested to confirm that everything was doing well, we found additional leaks that looked like they were in the refrigerant piping of the system. So we had isolated the evaporator coil, the refrigerant piping from the service valves of the condenser all the way down to just outside the air handler. And when we isolated it, we confirmed that the evaporator coil was not leaking and that the leakage appeared to be in the refrigerant piping. Specifically, the leakage appeared to be in the refrigerant piping on the suction line from the condenser down to the air handler. I discussed the situation with the property owner, and they agreed that if necessary, we could replace the refrigerant piping to eliminate the leakage. We arrived this morning with a new refrigerant pipe and started to work on trying to confirm that the refrigerant piping was the actual problem, or if there was a problem at the service valves. I had made mention in previous live streams that there was oil in the service valve reservoir where you adjust the service valve or open and close the service valve, but during the pressure test, there was no indication of leakage, at least that would be noticeable with bubbles coming through the oil in that reservoir. When we went back today, we knew that the suction line was the specific issue, so we focused on the suction line and pressure tested up to 500 psi on the refrigerant suction line piping. 500 psi on the refrigerant suction line piping dropped pretty fast. Within a few minutes, we dropped from 500 down to 300, but there was still no oil or no bubbles and no audible leakage or anything like that. So we actually cut the suction line just past the service valve and pressure tested the suction line itself and the service valve with about a foot of copper on it. The refrigerant pipe held pressure just fine, but the service valve showed a significant pressure drop, very similar to the testing we had done with the piping connected. So we ended up, after, very stringent attempts to find any leakage at the piping joints or the service valve fittings or anything, coming to the conclusion that rather than leaking externally, the refrigerant service valve was leaking through the king valve itself. So we were thinking that we needed to replace that service valve, but that seemed unnecessary due to the fact that it wasn't leaking externally. And once the service valve is seated all the way open, there's no leakage. So we recovered the refrigerant from the compressor to the condenser coil, reconnected the piping, and did another pressure test. And with the piping and the condenser coil, compressor, reversing valve, the whole system under pressure, we had no pressure drop over about a 30-minute time frame. With all that in mind, we went ahead and pulled a vacuum on the system, and vacuum pulled down well under 500 microns. It's about 400 and change, 430 or so, and went to recharge the system. Upon recharging the system and starting it up, we got the numbers that are displayed on the screen. Pretty good temperature split. Airflow calculation came out pretty well, though obviously it's a little bit lower than the nominal 2000 CFM. I did try to find the AHRI number for the system matchup, and I don't know if I was simply inputting just the wrong information or what, but I couldn't find a matchup number that had the equipment numbers in it. So I didn't bother trying to make adjustments based on the AHRI data. With that temperature split, I'm going to show you another picture here showing the refrigerant pressures. The system was running, and you can see the ambient and etc. The ambient temperatures, the suction line pressure, superheat and subcool. The target based on iManifold should have been suction line about 320 psi. We're not that far over on the head pressure. I think I just said that right. But suction pressure target was 98 psi, and I was running, as you can see, a steady 20-21 psi lower suction pressure. Hit up Jim Bergman real quick to see what he had to say about the subject, and he suggested that possibly the condenser coil was dirty, or possibly we had a smaller coil on the system that was changing the pressures. Superheat at about 18 degrees didn't seem to be an issue at all, and my suction line saturation temperature, or suction line temperature itself, was well below the compressor killing 66.4 or whatever that number comes out to be. But I wanted to show another number, but I don't have it on my phone. With the performance that we were getting, I opted to leave it like it was, so that we could, we were getting a good temperature split, we were getting good heating, and nothing so far out of range that I was alarmed that it could cause problems, but at this point we suggested that they give us a call, or we try to coordinate a return visit whenever the weather warms up a little bit and they start running air conditioning. Obviously, we may have an adjustment necessary at that time, but I felt like it was good enough for the time being to let it run and see how things balanced out. I did shoot a little video of the process, but I doubt that I will bother putting it together, as it wouldn't make a whole lot of sense in and of itself. So I will let this video stand as the follow-up to the whole thing. We may end up getting the service contract on the building. There are 8 units on the roof. It's a 4-story storage facility, and if there's 8 units on the roof, I believe those serve the 4th floor and the 3rd floor, 4 units per floor. So I would imagine that we've got another 8 units for the 2nd and 1st floor. So we're looking forward to the potential for that service contract. If we go back to the same building and we go through those other units, or I do, I'll try to do some video on that and give you some information. If I don't do video, I'll probably post it to Facebook if you guys want to check it out over there. You can find me on facebook.com under my name. And then if I end up shooting video, I'll post that at that time. And Joe, Mr. MI Heating Guy, to your question, I did charge by weight and adjusted for refrigerant pipe length, but with a 35-degree subcooling, I felt like it was probably safer not to push it much farther, just to try to get my suction pressure up. You know, like I said, we're going to look to go back when it warms up, and at that point make any additional refrigerant charge adjustments during the cooling rather than heating. So that's the general follow-up. I'll go ahead and throw those pictures up for another few minutes or another second or two, showing the system performance. There you have the air temperature and the calculated BTUs, target temperature split and whatnot, as well as the model and serial number of the equipment. And if you're watching this later on, you can pause on that screen and peruse the numbers a little more in depth. But I'm going to go ahead and switch back to the airside data, and there's your pressures, pipe temperatures, and superheat and subcool. Video's running about just under 15 minutes now. Rather than burning up too much data, I'm going to go ahead and shut this one down here in a minute. I really appreciate you guys watching. If you have comments, leave them down below once the video posts as a permanent record, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you've got. And before I leave, like, subscribe, comment, share, and we will see you on the next video. Thanks for watching, guys. Peace.